It saddens me deeply to say that at about 9:20 last night, on Kingsland High Street in Hackney, 3 men and a 9-year-old girl were shot when a firearm was discharged from a motorbike. I know that local people will be extremely concerned by this incident. We share that concern, and an urgent investigation has been launched to identify and apprehend those responsible. 3 men aged 26, 37 and 42 who were sitting outside a restaurant were taken to hospital for treatment for gunshot wounds. Their conditions are stable, but one potentially faces life-changing injuries. A 9-year-old girl who was inside the restaurant having dinner with her family suffered a gunshot wound, and she remains in hospital in a critical condition.
29th of May 2024 began like any other spring evening in Dalston, East London. Kingsland High Street was buzzing with the sounds of buses pulling up, people spilling out of shops, and the constant hum of life in one of the city's most diverse neighbourhoods. The Evin Restaurant, a family-run Turkish and Kurdish eatery, was packed. It was the kind of place that drew in families, groups of friends, and older residents who had eaten there for decades. Inside, a 9-year-old girl sat with her family. Her mother watched as she dug into her ice cream, laughing with her sister, excited to be out late. It was a moment of normality, of joy in the middle of a busy week. On the terrace outside, 3 men sat together. They were well known in the local Turkish community, but to detectives, they were more than diners. They were figures in one of the capital's most dangerous criminal feuds, members of the Hackney Turks gang. At 9:19 p.m, everything changed. A stolen white Ducati monster motorcycle roared into view. On its back was a man dressed in dark clothing, a helmet pulled down tight, his face hidden. Witnesses said he barely slowed. He raised a handgun and opened fire. 6 shots cracked in quick succession. 2 seconds of chaos. Chairs overturned, glass shattered. People screamed and scrambled for cover. The 3 men outside were hit. One slumped against his chair, clutching his leg. Another fell to the pavement, bleeding from his thigh. A third cried out as a bullet tore into his back. But the worst came inside. One bullet smashed through the window, striking the 9-year-old girl in the head. She collapsed instantly, her ice cream bowl clattering to the floor. Her mother's screams filled the restaurant. The gunman vanished as quickly as he had come, speeding off into the maze of London streets. Paramedics arrived within minutes. They rushed the girl to hospital, blue lights flashing through the night. Surgeons fought for hours to save her. Against all odds, she survived. But the bullet remained lodged deep in her brain, inoperable. Her life and her family's had been changed forever. This attack was not random. It was the latest chapter in a bloody feud between 2 gangs that have shaped the underworld of North London for decades: the Hackney Turks and the Tottenham Turks. Both groups trace their origins back to the 1980s and 1990s, when waves of migration brought Turkish and Kurdish families to London. Among them were families who would rise to prominence in crime. The Hackney Turks, centred in Dalston and Stoke Newington, were linked to the Armagan family. By the late 90s, Kemal Armagan and his brothers Ali and Erdal were major players. They inherited networks once controlled by Hüseyin Beybesin, a Kurdish drug baron so powerful that police said he imported the vast majority of Britain's heroin. The Tottenham Turks were led by the Eren family. Zafer Eren, and later his brothers Izzet and Kemal, ran their territory from Tottenham. They too built their empire on heroin, smuggling huge shipments into the UK and expanding their reach across Europe. For a while, there was an uneasy balance, but competition over territory, money, and pride soon ignited open warfare. By 2009, the feud had escalated into a bloodbath. That year alone, police recorded more than 30 shootings in London tied to the gangs. Cars were torched, homes firebombed, and men executed in cold blood. The violence spread internationally. In 2013, Tottenham leader Zafer Eren was assassinated in Southgate. His brother Izzet took over, only to be jailed in 2015 for gun offences. In prison, he continued to pull strings. When his younger brother Hussein was killed in Turkey in 2020, the feud deepened again. And in 2024, weeks after the Dalston shooting, Izzet himself was gunned down in Moldova in an attack linked to the Hackney Turks. The feud has claimed dozens of lives, from London streets to Turkish cities and Eastern European capitals. And yet it continues, each killing sparking another in an endless cycle of revenge. On the night of the 29th of May 2024, the targets were clear, the 3 Hackney Turks outside the Evin Restaurant. But gang wars don't obey rules. Innocents are always at risk. And on this night, a child became the victim. Within hours of the shooting, detectives from Scotland Yard's Trident Command, the specialist unit tackling gang crime, were on the case. The stolen Ducati was found abandoned nearby. CCTV footage showed 2 figures fleeing the scene. Witnesses described panic, the sound of shots echoing down Kingsland High Street, and the sight of a small child being carried out by paramedics. The investigation revealed a carefully orchestrated attack. Cars had been stolen in the days before. Reconnaissance had been carried out on the restaurant. After the attack, vehicles used in the operation were set alight to destroy evidence. This was no spontaneous act. It was a hit, planned and executed with military precision. The focus soon turned to Evin Restaurant, a 33-year-old from Tottenham. He wasn't the gunman, but detectives built a picture of him as the organizer. Phone records, surveillance, and witness accounts placed him near the scene before and after the shooting. He was the one who had scouted the restaurant, driven the shooter away, and arranged for evidence to be destroyed. When Riley was arrested, he denied everything. He claimed he'd been misled, told he was helping in a £40,000 job to snatch drugs. He said he had no idea a shooting was about to take place. He refused to name who had hired him, saying he feared violent retribution if he spoke. The police didn't buy it, nor did prosecutors. The shooter, meanwhile, remained unidentified. Despite extensive efforts, Scotland Yard has never named him. A £15,000 reward is still on offer for information leading to his arrest. Detectives believe he is connected to the Tottenham Turks, but in the shadows of organised crime, silence runs deep. In August 2025, the case came before the Old Bailey. For weeks, the jury heard testimony from police, doctors, and witnesses. They watched CCTV clips. They saw images of the abandoned Ducati. They listened as prosecutors described Riley's role step by step, the scouting, the driving, the disposal of evidence. But the most harrowing testimony came from the doctors who treated the girl. They explained how the bullet had smashed through her skull and lodged deep inside her brain. Removing it would kill her. Instead, surgeons rebuilt her skull with a titanium plate. She spent over 3 months in hospital, much of it in intensive care, battling infections, seizures, and paralysis. When she finally returned home, she was a different child. Her left side was weak, her vision impaired, her memory affected. Doctors said she would need care and rehabilitation for the rest of her life. Her mother's statement silenced the courtroom. She described the heartbreak of watching her once lively daughter reduced to watching from the sidelines. She spoke of endless hospital visits, of sleepless nights, of a family shattered by one moment of violence. She has a bullet still in her brain, she said, and a titanium plate in her skull. Our lives will never be the same. On the 18th of August, after days of deliberation, the jury delivered its verdict. Guilty on all counts. Attempted murder of the 3 men outside. Grievous bodily harm with intent to the little girl. On the 12th of September, Judge Mark Lucraft KC passed sentence. He told Riley he had been central to a crime of mindless violence. He handed down a life sentence with a minimum of 34 years. Riley would not be free until at least 2059. Justice, at least for Riley, had been served. But the aftermath remains painful. The girl's family continued to live with the consequences every single day. Her future, once full of possibility, is now shaped by physiotherapy sessions, medical checkups, and the limitations left by her injuries. Her mother says they live in constant fear of what may come next: seizures, complications, or worse. The 3 men who were targeted survived their wounds, but their presence outside that restaurant had drawn violence into the heart of Dalston. For the community, the attack was a wake-up call. Dalston is vibrant, diverse, and proud. But that night showed how the hidden wars of organized crime can erupt onto ordinary streets, threatening innocent lives. Residents described fear, shock, and anger. How could a child, simply eating ice cream, become the casualty of a feud she had nothing to do with? For police, the job is unfinished. The gunman who fired 6 shots remains at large. Detectives continue to appeal for witnesses, stressing that he is dangerous and could strike again. They know the feud between the Hackney Turks and the Tottenham Turks is far from over. The cycle of violence continues. The murder of Izzet Eren in Moldova, the arrest of Kemal Armagan in Turkey, the constant shifting of allegiances. Each move risks sparking more bloodshed. The story of the Dalston shooting is not just about one night or one feud. It is about how gang wars ripple through entire communities. It is about how power and revenge can destroy lives far beyond the world of organized crime. And it is about one little girl whose only mistake was sitting in the wrong place at the wrong time, eating ice cream with her family. Her survival is a miracle, but her suffering is a reminder that until the cycle of violence is broken, the innocent will always be in the crossfire. That is it for today's video. Let us know in the comments section what you think about this story, and I will see you in the next video.